Welcome back, everybody, to Coffee for Closers. My name's Alex Wellies. We're a little bit technically challenged this morning. However, I am here in studio with Mr. Caine Crawford, and we're talking all about his rise to power in the Fed space. Yes, it is true. This is a guy that has dedicated his entire practice pretty much to the Fed space and has done a wonderful job. We've spent an entire day in this studio recording things for you out there in the Fed space. A lot of folks out there that you've talked to over the years doing presentations all across the country. I mean, man, you got books, you've got some of the most impressive seminar materials I've ever seen regarding Fed employee seminars. Mr. Caine Crawford, thank you for being here. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for bringing me in, man.
So, as you may or may not know, this is a show all about getting to know some of the best and brightest here at Megastar. You being one of those, albeit your humbleness will stand in your way in agreeing with me on that. Oh. But it is true. You found yourself in our top 25 here, and somebody that should be noted as somebody that's done it all in the Fed space. And that's impressive, being that one of our top programs here at Megastar is the Fed program. So I just wanted to lay some foundation there, man. Talk to us a little bit about why the Fed market? What did you see in your early career? How long have you been in the Fed market? Give us some backstory.
Why? That's always the big thing, right? Everything that we do in sales is because of the why, right? They wrote books about what's your why.
What's your why?
Honestly, man, I mean, I guess I'm a product of the 08 crash, right? I was in the lending business.
Okay.
Had a huge, I think we might have talked about this years ago when I first met you, but for those folks that don't know me, a huge, I think we were doing $80+ million, which back in the, early 2000s was pretty good sized business for mortgage lending, right? We were writing construction loans, $1 million a pop. Our average loans were like 800,000 or 900,000. And then the 08 crash, and the first thing the bank, besides telling us that they weren't going to fund our last bunch of loans, it's like, oh man, not only that, we're not going to take loans over 500,000 anymore.
Oh, geez.
I hadn't written a small loan in years up to that point.
Right.
So, 3 assistants, 2 offices, just started shutting stuff down, and I going, what is going to happen next, And
a lot of guys came into our business from that industry.
I met a bunch of guys that were in the industry, and I think that's kind of one I looked, I mean, this was the proverbial, I'll do this until I can find something else.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of guys got in this industry. Nobody's going to go, sell life insurance or try to learn what annuities do.
Retirement planning.
Right?
Yeah.
You would have done that out of college if you really, really wanted to do it. But
and there are that do. There are some that do.
I know there's,
of course.
Some of those guys are the biggest and brightest, I'm sure. But, that was just, I kind of fell into it, like I'm sure 1,000 people have.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, looking back, right? I mean,
of course.
I now keep kicking myself, wishing I could have got into it right out of school.
Yeah.
I've met people that skipped school and got right into the business somehow, lucky for them.
Right.
This is a fantastic business. And, one thing I learned is that somebody said there's more 6-figure income earners in this industry than any other industry.
No doubt.
Maybe it's per capita kind of deal, but
yeah.
But I'm glad I fell into it. But it came down to now, you go through your warm market, you go through your friends and family, you sell as many life insurance policies as you can sell, and you start learning how to do the retirement stuff. And now what,
Right.
And one of my early on mentors, the one thing I really, really took from him was the guy who talks to the most people wins. So,
it's a numbers game.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I understand numbers. I just never really put it to, okay, now how many people do I have to talk to, and what kind of people, can I talk to people in elevators? Am I going to be that guy?
Right. Passing it out at the kid's soccer game.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, geez. And I almost bought into it for a minute and realized it's just not my sales style. I've told you before, I'm not a sales guy. And that's if there's anything that's remarkable about maybe the business that I do and the business that I will do in the very near future, it's that I'm not a sales guy.
Yeah.
I'm an educational based relationship guy. That's just, and that comes to the surface. And I've had people tell me that, I never understood it or whatever, but that's kind of what maybe my secret sauce is right. I actually listen to somebody.
But we've talked about that. We talked about that before we went on the air here was the best. And I've had the pleasure, thank goodness, of talking with so many of you brilliant folks that came and dedicated some time to Coffee for Closers, but have the best and brightest in this retirement planning scape. They're not salespeople. They're educating. They're willing to educate with no real return, expecting no return. I'm here to educate you first and foremost. And they're not selling, or it's some really scaled down version of sales, right? Like it's so far away from that used car salesman thing, because if you've got some process that you're religiously following that just spells it out and gets you to talk like real fast, and you're moving really quick through your pitch, and you're not doing anything, blah, 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 you're really moving quickly. People that are educated or are used to being sold a lot,
they catch that.
They're going to spot you from a mile away, man.
They catch that.
And the problem with our business and those people are that the people that have the most money, or have a lot of money even, and would need a retirement planner, are the people that have been sold to the most. Right. And so kudos to the people that can, take out that feeling of I'm being sold, and it's more about education, which I think you've done.
And somewhere along the way, that whole background and then the education and relationship piece of it is what got me towards the Fed market, right? So I'm trying to figure out how I can talk to as many people as I can talk to. Crazy big stories that go along with all the things I tried and thought through, and all the leads I bought and all the things that I tried to get into, and just never, because I couldn't be that sales pitch guy.
Right.
They weren't going to work for me.
Right.
And then it was lucky for me. My dad, this is actually the second piece, but my dad's a retired Fed.
Right.
26-year career. It's in the book. We're not plugging the book on this show. Sorry.
Yeah. No. You can, man. This is important. This is a pleasure. I mean, this is impressive. Very impressive.
It
full
was a
book.
Labor of love.
The Educated Fed. And so for anybody watching, this is a book that you put together, about 150 pages long, all about the federal. I mean, you pass it out all the time at your events. You're giving it away. You told me you were going to give me a signed copy today. That's awesome. Right. Sure. But that's impressive. Okay.
But yeah. So my dad's career, was one of the pieces. I can give you the real career of the kind of my start background because of where we are today. But I had a good friend, one of my best friends in Colorado. His aunt was a Fed.
Yeah.
She's retiring. She's she's been an assistant. She was a GS-9 her whole life.
Yeah. Walking
out with a CSRS pension and $100,000 and a TSP that most CSRS folks don't have, right? So she's got this $100,000. And by the way, if any of you remember your career early on, $100,000, that was a big That was a big 401k, right?
Yeah.
I'm happy to get a $70,000 deal back then. Like, man, this is a big one, $100,000. And she's going to listen to me because I'm her nephew's best friend, not best friend, but good friend. So we got that deal done smooth as ever. And I had to learn. I've been a student. If you haven't, everybody, I'm sure you guys talk about that. I mean, if you're not improving your knowledge in the Fed space every day, don't try it.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me probably 3-4 years before I really felt comfortable, before I even met you the first time, probably.
Right. No, it had to be.
I was already that far into it, trying to figure out this whole process with the Feds.
But that's why we did the designation.
That's smart.
We had to, because it was a useless point up to that point. We weren't getting people educated enough to be successful out there. So, okay, so you get educated.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a sales guy to an extent that I understand the sale. Right? So I'm learning fast while she's asking me questions. Thank God for Google. I'm flipping through stuff, answering her questions. Yeah. Just because she didn't know where to go look.
Right.
But I gave myself a crash course on TSP in about a month's time during that sale. Mm-hmm. Took a little bit longer to get the TSP funds than it does for me today. I figured that one out in a hurry.
Sure.
But it was a genius, and she referred me to her friend. And I went, wow, that was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Because I've done much better deals and taking care of people in the corporate world 1,000 times better, and not even got the slightest thanks for taking care of my money.
Right.
Or let alone, hey, talk to my best friend who's got way more money than I do.
Right.
That's never even happened. So to answer the one question, why did I go this route? I had a really cool experience, right, with one sale, and that was like probably the most fun sale and one of the bigger ones, right? At
$100
grand at that point in my career, I was like, this is my second biggest deal ever.
Right, right.
And it was actually the easiest one, minus all the homework I had to do.
Sure. Sure.
And then when she introduced me to her friend, and I literally reverted to myself, my relationship guy. I worked with this lady for 6 or 7 months.
Right.
Talking to her because she was early 70s.
Yeah.
Still working.
Right.
So now I'm thinking, all these people are going to be in their late 60s, early 70s. They have to do something at some point, right? This could be a good idea.
Yeah.
And about that time, my dad had already retired and was asking me, what are you doing? Talking with these feds?
Yeah.
And I was telling him what I was doing and some of the stuff that I had learned. And he went, I wish I would have known that.
Yeah.
I wish I would have known that. And he said that enough times where I thought, you didn't know any of this stuff? And the people I talked to didn't know any of this stuff either. And about that time was probably when I met you guys in 2013 or 14.
Yeah.
Can't remember whenever we first met.
It was about that time. Had to be.
And 2015 maybe. But anyway, so and I had been with those two clients and now trying to get into the Fed space. Because the second Fed, she said, hey, you've got to get an office in my building. I'm like, how am I going to do that?
This is in Colorado.
Yeah. So it took me a few years.
Right.
So I think by the time I actually met you, I'd already got the space. So it was probably in 15.
Yeah.
So now I'm working on federal property. Literally, I park next to a Fed on both sides. I walk down the hall next to Feds. My office is right in the middle of the hallway, right? So I'm in the middle of it, right?
Right.
Still don't know what I got, other than I know they're more fun to deal with than the corporate folks. And they know, and they need some help.
So you're realizing at this point that they're in need of education, a great referral source, and easy to work with to this point.
I call them the best rule followers ever.
Yeah.
How many corporate people have I talked to and said, hey, here, based on what you got going, you need to make this change, this thing, and this change, or your outcome that you're looking for isn't going to happen.
Right.
Oh, okay, well, thanks.
See ya.
And it's like, those are basic little changes. They were nothing even big,
But then you know what's funny though is like I'll look at our audience here or even the people that have joined in they're pretty bought into the Fed space right now, but the people that haven't, right? I'll look at them and I'll be like, okay, they look at the learning curve because that's the one thing. They're like, okay, this is a catch. What is the catch, man? Like, well, you got to learn the stuff, man. If you don't, you're going to struggle, right? But it's also your best friend because yes, you have to overcome that learning curve. But on the other side of that is you and only you, right? Like that's what makes this a niche market is the fact that there's nobody else. Like you're saying, I went to a private sector or corporate world person and I'd give them advice and they'd say, okay, see ya. What they're doing is bringing it to their guy.
Yeah. The other 10 guys.
The other 10 guys, but there's no other guy in the Fed space. You are the only guy. And so you're the first person to bring them this stuff. They don't have some other guy. The Raymond James guy isn't going to give them any sort of advice in this area. So you're realizing the niche aspect of it at the same time.
And that's really kind of, it all came down. And I always say, if you're believers, I always say it's a God thing because I couldn't have found my way into this picture.
Right.
I couldn't have designed it.
Yeah.
But it all kind of came together. I said, hey, Dad, you've been retired for a few years now. Do you want to come back and work with me?
Yeah.
At the Fed space.
Right.
Like, do you have an office at the Fed space? I'm like, yeah. He says, I'll come work with you.
So you're in a Fed building now.
Right. Now I'm in a Fed building. My dad's back to a Fed building that he was in for 30 years, right? Not the same one, but.
Yeah.
So that opened some doors for me.
Yeah.
Right? So that was the initial, but I also got the knowledge. So what I said earlier is learning, sharpening your craft.
Yeah.
I was reading those Fed Week books. I don't know if you guys still have them laying around.
We have them all over the place.
My dad just literally found one of my first sets and they're tabbed, yellow tabbed. They're like this thick because I've got them yellow tabbed for what all the pieces are because people were asking stuff. I'm like, that was right there. I'm able to answer the question. And
there you go.
But because I did that, like we said today, I can teach a 4-hour benefits class and get off topic so far. I have no idea where I'm even at. I have to look at the screen to, I'll get back back at least into the class.
That's what we were saying. We were saying that the best folks out there that are doing the Fed space are the guys, and I'm sure any of you guys watching that are doing Social Security workshops, retirement workshops, whatever, but the best workshops that are out there are the guys and gals that leave the slides in the dust and they open their seminar up to any questions anywhere. It's like, and it's like you're almost begging for questions because you know the outcome that'll come from it is like, I can answer anything you guys throw at me.
And if I can't, I'm going to give you a book.
Yeah, right.
And I'm going to get you the answer.
I'm going to get you the answer.
What can go wrong, really, right?
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
But so all that to say that I worked so hard to learn their stuff that now when I got that next referral.
Yeah.
And I think we even did a little small class that we just opened up in our office and said, hey, we're having a lunch and learn. We had like 14 people walk in the door with their bags and their lunch boxes. And I just winged it. I was like, nice. I know what I want to tell you. I just don't know how to tell you. I don't know what you're looking for.
Right.
Because I'd been answering questions, not knowing that everybody didn't know.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, you don't all know what you need to know. So, and that's when we really turned hard to, let's make this an educational platform and really show, my dad always says, he's like, show your authentic self.
Sure.
I want you to be an educated vet. That's where the name, I want you to understand. There's lots of information out there, right? We're in the information age right now.
Yeah.
But I would beg to have you tell me that there's not a difference between an informed person and an educated person.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's like educated feels like they're able to, they could almost teach it to somebody else. They know it so well, right?
Yeah, right. You know what the answer is now.
Yeah.
Not, well, the internet said.
I know, right? And I know how it works, and I know the exceptions, and I know all of these other things. We've been preaching it on Coffee for Closers for a few weeks now. It's like the difference between, like, the best salespeople are teachers, right? People that are willing to teach, not preach, right?
Yeah. And I didn't even understand that. I've heard that a million times.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand that that's how I fit into this whole sales. Like I said, I never call myself a salesperson because I just can't sell you something.
I heard from somebody else too. Is like, the difference between a teacher and a salesman. I said, no. So one gets paid by the government, like a good salesman, and one gets paid by the government, right? And I was like, well, what about private schools? It's awesome. Like, but he's just trying to make this point of like a good salesperson's a teacher, willing to teach anybody on anything, literally, and
that's what I love about this, and I love about your program with the leads. Yeah, because that's been a piece now, right? So now we take a lead and we cultivate it, and we have a process that, like I said, we can go deeper into down the road or whatever.
Yeah.
But these leads open us up to so many different people.
Right.
I got one that I'm talking to. Oh, shoot. Tomorrow. It's not today. I was like, at some point. But she's like, oh, I'm a new hire.
Okay.
I literally haven't got my first LES.
Wow.
I'm like, well, this will be a fun conversation. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Darn well knowing I'm not going to make any money probably.
Sure.
Right? But yet it gives me that much more practice to be that much better for the next person who says, yeah, and by the way, what should I do with this old 401k that I had? Or
it's a dedication, man. That's what it is. You got a dedication to the system. You realize that this person's a federal employee and you made your career in federal employees to this point, and therefore helping any and all of them is either food for me now or food for the future, right? It's farming. You got a farm system. And
it really is farming.
It's farming.
We cultivate the fields all day, every day.
Yep.
And we never know when the crops are going to bloom. We just know as long as we keep farming.
Some years better harvest than others, but you just keep farming. And you guys have done a great job building that up and up and up and up. And obviously you said something about the leads. So I wanted to touch at least before we got off the air, because I know we've done a long day of filming here. But anyway, the COVID-19 world, right? So you had a little time off with an accident with your son, but other than that, how has it been working the appointments, doing it virtually? Talk to me.
It's and I told you earlier, it's been what I call a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because it forced the system of trust among federal employees. So the federal employee is not always the most trusting one, or what's the other word? I guess I can't even think of the word. Maybe adventurous, or how many employers can say the majority of our employees come here and never leave?
Right.
I mean,
not many.
I don't know of an industry that has more long-term employees than the Fed.
Yeah.
Right? Besides state employees or something.
Sure.
But these people they're consistent.
Yep.
They do the same thing every day.
Yep.
4 days a week, 5 days a week.
Yep.
And trying to go online, trying to expand my business, right? So moving from one side of the country to the other, trying to figure out how to make my business work virtually.
Yeah.
Proved to be a little bit of a tricky situation over the last couple of years.
No secret, the market wasn't ready for it.
Right.
I mean, they didn't want it yet.
But then all of a sudden, COVID literally makes it okay for everything to be online.
I know.
Right?
I know.
So now we had 48 people in whatever the first webinar you guys did for me.
Right.
You know, and I think we had 4 or 5 sales out of that one. It's like, wait a minute. These people were in Kentucky and Missouri and Washington and Colorado. They're all over the country. And I'm like, I've been trying to figure out how to make this work.
But you know what? I
2.5 years.
Because I sat here last week, a week before, with 2 other advisors. One was Brian Benham, who's older than you, we'll say. And
Same
been doing
thing.
this a really long time.
Yeah.
And he's made it work too. You're making it work. There's so many folks out there that aren't making the virtual work. And the thing is, I'm starting to put it together. You're committed to it. Like you were trying to get it done beforehand, right?
Trying.
And so now you've got this confidence of, I know how to do this. And it was really just the consumer that wasn't ready. I was ready. I had all the infrastructure ready. I knew how to make this a fun experience or an engaging experience and convey trust throughout the whole sales process. You were already there. And so now you're reaching out a hand and saying, come do this with me. And you've already got it there. And so now I think the customer's just following you.
And they're starting to.
Other advisors will get on and be like, okay, I'm going to send you this Zoom link. I'm not exactly sure how it works.
Let me know if you get it.
Let me see if you get it. Did you get it? And you're like, well, duh. Yeah. Like, they don't trust you. Of course they don't trust you. They don't know what's going on. They're really kind of disengaged with this. But if you're all of my guys that are super dedicated and excited that this happened, they're all killing it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, going back to the, picking a niche, pick a purpose, pick something.
Yeah.
Then the reason I ended up going with Feds is because they were easy to work with.
Yeah.
It didn't take long.
They are.
It literally didn't take long for me to go through a work day of 7 or 8 appointments in a single day.
Yeah.
From some early Fed leads that I found.
Yeah.
That was the most fun day I've ever had in my financial career.
Yeah.
And I didn't make a penny.
Yeah.
Right. But I wanted to go do it again the next day because I knew I'm now digging up, a field. So that was what got me kind of in the niche. And of course, some federal guru that I've followed a lot and she's a secret mentor of mine. She says, the riches are in the niches. It's like,
there's no doubt. I've said that here too. I think
I'd never heard it before. I was like, oh
man,
you're so right.
The riches are in the niches. But again, it comes back to this word you've been throwing around a ton. You said it yourself with the Fed Week books. It's just studying up. It's the education factor. If you're not going to bring that to the table, they're easy to talk to. And everybody I've ever plugged into the Fed program has struggled until they figured that point out, that they needed to know everything in order to really just guide a conversation when there's dead space. And when I mean dead space, I mean it's quiet and nobody really knows what's going on, right? Like, what am I going to do? How do you guide them out of that?
On the phones these days, you can't have that at all.
No, you can't have it. You're responsible for making this an engaging experience, right? And so from A to Z, you've got to be ready to go. It's like, okay, talk to me. Okay, so this workbook is so wonderful, man.
And I do like you said on the new calls.
Yeah.
Today, right? If I'm talking to a Fed that just called in on one of the Fed leads or something.
Yeah.
I started out like, hey, I don't even tell them who I am. Like, I know who I am and they're excited to get the call because my assistant. If you don't have an assistant setting your stuff up, that's another thing. Find a good one.
Yeah.
But the conversation is just what you said earlier. It's like, I ask them, I say, hey, I know you scheduled this time because you probably have some questions.
Yeah.
I said, I want to make sure we get all those answered, and I'll probably have some questions for you along the way, but what's on your mind?
Right.
Like, I almost just go right there.
Boom, opened it up.
And people go, well, what I really wanted to know was.
There's too many guys and gals out there scared to do that, right? Too scared to say, I'm going to open this up to whatever your question might be, right? Or they'll try and lead the question somewhere, right?
That's the sales tactic, right? We've been taught to, you control the situation, you tell them what to ask, and you.
Yeah.
Once you get, and the only way to really build that credibility is, and this is one of the reasons I did all this, right? You got to have, just like we said in the class today, the life insurance is your estate until you have one.
Right.
This is my credibility until you talk to me.
Yeah.
Right? So the minute you talk to me and go, oh, he does actually know what he's talking about, right?
I don't know if you guys can see all that, but this is I mean, it's just, it goes with your whole, it just builds credibility from day one, step one. I mean, this booklet, I mean, you're going through everything as it pertains to, their FEGLI, you're going through their TSP, their FERS annuity, you're going through everything and it's filling in along the way. And I could even imagine this being good to send out if you were like teeing up a big virtual call. It's like, I just sent you something in the mail, and this is going to be for our call next week or whatever.
Like the training coordinator or something would get one of these.
Yes. I mean, and so you've built this out, and now at this point you've got this kind of mini empire going where you're doing virtual online events, you're doing appointments all across the country, you're doing seminars live, or you were doing them live.
Can't wait to go back. Those were fun.
Can't wait to go back. 4-hour classes, 2-hour classes, 1-hour classes. Now we're doing videos, we're doing promos, teaser videos, all of those things. You've been a mastermind of the Fed space. So
I'm learning every day, man.
Just learning every day. So anyway, I just wanted to grab you for a few minutes on the show, talk a little bit about that. Is there any advice that you might give to somebody starting out in the Fed space? What's one good piece of advice you would give them?
Just learn it. You got to be the answer. Yeah. People have to know. It's that cliche of they have to know they have to know you care before they care what you know.
Yeah,
it is.
Yes.
One, but then if you don't know, they'll know that you don't know.
Right.
So it's like you have to be authentic and
and know your stuff
and know the stuff. That's the key.
Well, Caine, thank you so much for joining us today right here on Coffee for Closers. Anybody out there that watched and wants to know more stuff about Caine, I'll put all the information in the bio. Again, I'm Alex Wellings. This is Coffee for Closers, and we'll see you right here next week on the show. Caine, you the man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Get your books. See you next time.